Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of High Energy Girl. And today's awesome guest is Dr. Mike Sinel, who is a recognized expert in spinal disorders and pain management. He is also the CEO of Medical Foods. We had a super fun conversation. He's really cool down in Southern California, and I think you're really going to like hearing what he has to say. So let's go and say hello to Dr. Mike. Hey everyone, welcome to High Energy Girl, a podcast helping women to age stronger because it is never too late to get fit, be strong, and feel sexy. I'm your host, Tracy Gluhite, health coach and personal trainer and founder of highenergygirl.com. Each week, we will either have a guest interview, which will provide you encouragement or an actionable tip to help you age stronger, or I will do a solo episode. Please also join our awesome Facebook group called High Energy Girls, and I'm looking forward to see you on the inside of that group and hope you enjoy today's show. Guess what, everyone? My book is out. It is a revised and updated edition of a book I wrote 5 years ago called No Frickin' Way, 21 Days to Ditch the Diet and Lose Weight the Keto Way by Loving Yourself to Health. When I first wrote the original book, I was not a believer in the low carb movement, but after all the years of research I've done, I am sold out for life. In this book, you will learn about all the lies you have been fed, how to engage in loving self-care, how to eat nourishing foods that provide massive energy, why the ketogenic diet is not a fad, how to heal your body through fasting, why you should move your body to get stronger, and how to create an empowering mindset. Start reading now and finally achieve the high energy and positive body image you deserve. Check it out on Kindle, on Amazon. And if you like it, please leave us a review because this will help more people find it. I really want to inspire people to not deprive themselves, but to nourish themselves with loving self-care and amazingly healthy food so that they can age stronger. Thank you so much, and I hope you enjoy it as much as I enjoyed writing it. Hey, Dr. Mike, thanks so much for coming on the show today.
Thanks for having me, Tracy. I'm excited to be here.
Oh, cool. I'm excited too. Hey, so for the listeners that don't know you yet, why don't you share a little bit about yourself?
Okay, so I'm from New York City, as we just described. I did my medical training in New York, both my medical school and my residency, which was at Cornell New York Hospital and Sloan Kettering in Manhattan, and then headed west and ended up at Cedars Sinai Medical Center, where I ran a department, the Outpatient Department of Physical Medicine and Rehabilitation, which I was board certified in both physical medicine, rehabilitation, and pain management, and also became an assistant clinical professor at UCLA School of Medicine, where I taught for 30 years. Wow, even though I feel 30. So yeah, had a long history practicing as a physician, doing some research, wrote a couple of books. My field, which is physical medicine, rehabilitation, and pain management, I primarily geared my focus towards outpatient pain and musculoskeletal. So I and a lot of that was back and neck problems, very wide range from basically I threw out my back and have spasms and chronic back pain to complex post-surgical chronic pain, herniated disc, fractures, etc. So the entire spectrum of spinal disorders was really what I specialized in, but I did all general musculoskeletal, and I also had a pain practice which dealt with all complex and chronic pain, not only limited to the spine. And then my mentor in New York was John Sarno, who was sort of a leader in the mind-body medicine field. He was a professor at NYU, and he wrote original books, Mind Over Back Pain, and really Healing Back Pain, which became one of the, I think, probably the best-selling back pain book of all time. I wrote Back Pain Remedies for Dummies, Win the Battle Against Back Pain, but John Sarno and subsequently me, one of our big unique approaches had to do with the mind-body connection. And much of the teaching I've done in my life at places like the Esalen Institute and and UCLA, yes, I taught there for years, had to do with the mind-body connection and how it relates to pain. And I was always basically I was very Western traditional trained, but I was an undergraduate psych major. I always understood there was a connection between the mind and body, and then I got to see it clinically, got to work with John Sarno, and that started an extraordinary adventure of how stress plays into anything. And then in my role as a professor at UCLA, assistant clinical professor, I brought things into the medical school like mindfulness meditation for pain and yoga therapy for pain. And, practicing in LA, in Beverly Hills for many years, I learned a lot from my patients who were seeing every sort of alternative practitioner you could imagine. And when I was always intrigued to learn from them. So I learned early on from, basic well-known things like acupuncture to different types of energy healing and Reiki and Feldenkrais and integrating massage therapy and integrating hypnosis, and always had a psychologist in the practice with me. So I really tried to approach patients holistically. And, there was always Western surgery. I had partners who were spine surgeons, and there was always medications to use and interventions and injections. And they were part of my practice, but I always tried to make them last resort. Like if we could do things that can have less risk for patients and could address their problems and use mind-body approaches. And, as my own life journey evolved, I became a yoga practitioner, meditator. Joe Dispenza is a good friend, and I'm a big advocate of his work. And I've done, because of my own trauma, lots of human potential work and self-growth. I always learned how the mind and body interact and these things play in. And then, during the time of my practice, I got acquainted to these natural solutions for many problems through nutrition, as food is thy medicine, from Hippocrates, and had a good diet, but learned that I watched the world of supplements evolve during the time I practiced, and realized that was very challenging, which supplements are good and bad. And then I came across this area of medical foods, which I'm excited to talk to you about today, encapsulated medical foods. And now my passion, I stopped practicing during COVID. And my passion, really, I took over this company, which is Physician Therapeutics. And I'm very passionate now to bring these natural solutions of encapsulated medical foods out to the world, which manage disease through targeted nutrition and a patented messenger amino acid technology. But that was a mouthful, so I'll take a breather, and sorry for that.
No, it's all good. And I kind of want to chunk down what you've just said. So pain management is a big issue right now. Well, it has been for a long time, right? Because of the opioid epidemic and all of that. So I think that bringing in the mind-body experience is really important. And I feel like Western medicine, for the most part, doesn't even address the quantum or the physics. And I know Joe Dispenza too. Well, I don't know him, but I've read his books and listened to him. But I love what he said is that your body is 99.999% energy. We're not the matter, we're the wave, and we're the energy primarily. And most Western medicine as a whole doesn't address that at all. It sounds like you do.
Oh, yeah, I do. And it was interesting because that came to me through my journey into yoga. When I started feeling energy in my body and understanding, that my chi and what that means, and my chakras, and opening up, and also realizing how various stressful times in my life would always result in symptoms, whether they were dandruff or gastrointestinal upset or headaches or chronic pain. And seeing this in my patients and seeing my own pathways out through things like meditation and yoga and regulating my nervous system and the flight fight response. I mean, we have an autonomic nervous system that in our society is very out of balance for most people, and that is at the root of much disease. And the nervous system, everything's energy behind it all, for sure. And I'm a big student of quantum. That's how Joe and I connected, because I did work in mind body, and the research coming out in the fields of bioenergetic medicine is fascinating. And I'm very optimistic actually about our healthcare system evolving into a better system to, really offer better health to humanity, because the technologies supporting that are evolving very quickly, and our understandings and the research is really coming along. I mean, Joe Dispenza's research team, who I'm very close with, is putting out incredible data healing many, many diseases with, again, these mind-body meditative techniques. Tony Robbins, who I just did a week with Tony and spent, on the Date with Destiny. And, I'm tight with the Stanford research team who is researching his work and put out a study this year showing his work compared to antidepressants, showing better response after 6 months in many people. And I'm like so excited that, because I do all these works for myself, and seeing how mindset and work and mind body, and the medical foods I got into work on the brain actually, because they're balancing neurotransmitters. They work through amino acids producing neurotransmitters, and which again are the nervous system and signaling the brain and keeping us, if our neurotransmitters are not balanced, or if our body is not balanced nutritionally and in the right mindset, then the chances for the miraculous powers of the body to heal are not optimized. And that's the bottom line. The body heals phenomenally, better than anything we could ever bring to it. We just have to optimize that. So, we know the vast majority of disease can be addressed through lifestyle management. But when we look at the big diseases, heart disease, cancer, I mean, if everyone was in the right state of mind and exercising right and, eating well, it would be a very different curve of our healthcare system.
They're not taught that. Their doctors just give them a pill for the symptom instead of addressing the root cause. I mean, I've been able to help people that are diabetics get off of their medications just by changing their lifestyle, just as a health coach. And so, yeah, I totally agree with everything that you're about and what you're saying. And I think it's important that people look at that and how they're living their life and just make one change at a time so that they can improve the rest of their life, So I want to get to the medical stuff in a minute, but what you said was about the energy and your body being able to heal itself. And one of my teachers said, what happens when you cut your finger? Well, your finger heals, right? So that's proof that your body can heal itself. Well, why would it only want to heal a cut and not everything else?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it does heal everything. I mean, yes, that's the best thing. Take a knife, go like that, watch it for a day, it'll close up. It's a miracle. Just like having children. So the body and everything about us is very miraculous, and natural, so we are fighting against ourselves with stress and poor nutrition, the sedentary lifestyle. And those are the things that, because we're not taking care of our body, mind, and our whole energetic field in that state, our body is set up to age. We're finding out aging is not necessarily natural. It's somewhat of an illness that we're learning to reverse. So, and a lot of that, again, is focused on lifestyle.
So with that said, what are some best practices that you tell people that they should adapt or add into their life?
Well, so if I start with the number one thing that will get you sick, or is the most important thing in you thriving, it would be your mindset, right? So for mindset, I would say that, there are things like meditation. I mean, I think, two people who are certainly leaders in the world and well known, and I am big fans of and know personally, would be Joe Dispenza's work, because it's, again, about using meditative states and understanding that you could put yourself in a state and change your habits and manifest things by having your emotional body regulated and your mindset correct. So, he wrote a book called The Placebo, and wrote a book called, Changing the Habits of Being Yourself, which is, if you,
That's a good one.
Yeah, I love, and and I think Supernatural's his last book, and it's like, yeah, if you do the same things the same way every day, it's not going to be good. But if you get up in the morning and do gratitude practices and take a walk in the sunlight, so you're moving your body and you're taking in some nature, hopefully, if you're able to, but at the very least, hopefully some sunlight, and the most basic of basic things, gratitude, some quieting of the mind, some nature, some sunlight, movement, exercise, and then eat properly, have good hydration, take healthy foods. And, if you just do that, you're talking about shifting the health of our whole population. I mean, obesity, you look at what's killing our population. Obesity is a massive percentage of the population in this country. Loneliness is a massive percentage of the population. So things like community are very important. I always say, when I have a lot of friends who are, sort of repeaters of a lot of work, and like a lot of Joe Dispenza's community, because Joe's a friend of mine, comes to my house, meditates together at times, and we'll have little sound baths or yoga retreats here. And a lot of it is also about being in community, because we surround ourselves with people who have growth mindsets, who have a consciousness of, hey, we want to put out, could sound stupid, but positive vibes, and raise our consciousness, and have, there you go, good vibes, right? I love trust, love, and you get, it's beautiful. So we're aligned, and you can feel it when you're with people who are aligned, because we have a mindset of not necessarily playing a victim role, but saying, hey, what could I create in my life? And I understand everyone has different life circumstances, and I've had challenging ones, and there are people who have to, have horrible circumstances that I feel for. But I think anyone could find places to learn certain things, no matter how horrendous their circumstances are, to use their mindset and wake up their spiritual being and find some purpose in life. I mean, look, Viktor Frankl was a concentration camp survivor who wrote Man's Search for Meaning. And why did he survive? Because he found purpose. So these are the things that I think are the most important for people. And it's simple medicines, right? And I'm mostly right now promoting all the things that are natural first. I mean, I'm a great believer in much of what Western medicine has to offer, and there's great technologies, but the system's very broken. And I'm very excited about health coaching as a constantly evolving field that, you know, could be a collaborative care model, and people, we could call them patients, but it's our fellow humans participating in their own health active. It's not like, you know, my parents' generation of like the white coat, give me a pill. Let's take responsibility for your own health and optimize your lifestyle.
Well, and the misinformation out there is pretty bad. I mean, with, you said COVID earlier, and with COVID, I'll never forget a box of Lucky Charms at the grocery store on the end cap said immune boosting. I'm like, oh, really? You know, I mean, in March of 2020, I put out a series of how to boost your immune system. And one of the things is sleep. You know, sleep is regenerative. Sleep is like, most people think it's like a luxury. Oh, I don't have time, I got to work, or, you know, things like that. And they don't take it seriously to get quality of sleep. My husband is like that, and makes me crazy. So anyway, yeah, so I'm totally aligned with you. So just one more thing on that list. What does your nutritional, like, what do you like to eat? What are your favorite foods?
Yeah, I'll answer. I do want to thank you for bringing up sleep. I take it for granted, but that's another key thing in my little list, right? I start off with like mindset, exercise, nutrition, sleep, like those are all foundation. And then of course there's heat and cold. And I mean, I'm a biohacking nut, so I do infrared saunas and very into ice baths and, you know, et cetera, et cetera. So
I have an infrared sauna, but I cannot do the ice bath. That is just, I just can't even do it.
And of course, breath work, you know, which I'm very big into as well, you know, but ice baths are key. they're amazing. And breath work is incredible, you know, so, but all these things are, you know, somewhat icing on the cake. It's whatever gets you to find those places to, at the very least, take a break from the busyness of the stress and, you know, go inside. So nutrition, I mean, look, I eat healthy, and I you know, I'm not fanatic in any way. You know, I recently struggled with like really breaking my sweets habit once again, you know, but you know, just like over the holidays, like desserts, oh my God. But you know, so sugar, I think, is generally, processed sugar is terrible. And I encourage everyone to eliminate it from the diet. I think obviously, you know, vegetables are very key. I try to be way more plant-based. I eat lots and lots of salads. I do eat meat, but I try and make it organic, grass-fed, and not as often, you know, try and minimize it. But I have friends who are vegan who are super healthy. I think you could potentially get your protein supplemented in several ways. Yeah, I say I try to be conscientious. I intermittent fast. Fasting's another great hack for health. Not only do I intermittent fast, I try and do a water fast once a week, one full day for 36 hours. So I think fasting is really strong data now showing, you know, it could promote autophagy and reset our body. So
let me ask you a question about that. So my health goal for like, well, it has been for a while, is to get stronger. I do CrossFit, and I have said, okay, I want to do a Wednesday fasting day, because Wednesday is like my yoga day. I have no CrossFit. I take a break. And I thought, okay, like that's a goal. Like I want to do this 36-hour water fast. But do you believe that I can maintain my muscle and it won't affect anything with my strength and my muscle if I do something like that?
Wednesday's water day. That's my day. Wednesday
is
water day. Yeah. Do I believe it? Yes.
Okay.
Do I have science to back it? No. I'll just give you my intuition on it. You know, unless you are like hyper on that line of perfectly lean, no body fat, muscles at a very tight line, might 36 hours slightly compromise things a little bit in terms of ongoing development. maybe. I can't imagine it being noticeable from that. The benefits would so far outweigh any risks to me.
Okay. All right.
Not
Next week, next Wednesday, Dr. Mike. That was
call
on
me
my
up.
list of goals.
Call me up for any support you need. I'm down. We could, accountability partners. We have a lot of that. In my life and world and community and men's groups that I run, have accountability partners. So
That's
I'm all for
awesome.
Wednesday's water day. And again, I'd love to dive in, on medical foods a little, because I just feel it's so important to bring out when you find something that's safe and natural and could impact people's health globally without risk. It's really critical to make the public aware of this, which is why I now own this company, and I'm super excited to spread the message.
So what does the term medical foods mean exactly?
Right, that's the first thing, because I, like most people, had no idea when I learned about it, even though I was a doctor, and it's an FDA regulated category. I was like, that must mean like green drinks and shakes and powders, and and it turns out the products I'm dealing with this company are encapsulated, but they're powder. But it's an FDA category that has a very specific definition, which I'll share. So it's specifically formulated, a nutrient formula that is specifically formulated to meet a nutrient demand that is in a particular disease state. So it's specifically formulating nutrients that are all natural. The ingredients are GRAS, which is GRAS, generally recognized as safe, which would include vitamins, minerals, amino acids, certain botanicals. They all fall under a category of GRAS. Most supplements are GRAS category, right? So these are specifically formulated GRAS ingredients designed to address a disease that is shown to have a nutrient deficiency, and that cannot be met through a normal diet. And that's what's really interesting in this FDA definition, because it turns out when you look at most chronic diseases, we'll take chronic pain and inflammation as a simple, starting point. There's an increased metabolic demand on the body when you're in a chronic disease state, right? Like the metabolism, the cells have to work harder. So there's increased metabolism, demands on the metabolism of the cells, because the body's under a stressor of a disease. So it might be insomnia, chronic sleep deficiency, might be chronic inflammation and pain, right? So the body is not optimized, right? It turns out that when the body has an increased metabolic demand in these disease states, it's been shown, this company originated in demonstrating the science, that there is a nutrient deficiency at the cellular level of neurotransmitters because of the increased demand. So if you think of it, for the public here, to give an analogy, it's like when you look at a car, if a car starts going uphill, it needs more energy, so it'll use gas quicker. Well, my Tesla will use lots more electricity going up a hill, right, than if it's on a flat surface. So that would be like the energy demand on the cell, which is the increased metabolic demand. So the cells are producing things. We eat, right? We eat, and our food is metabolized into nutrients to provide for cellular mechanisms to let our body properly function and optimally function. Well, in these disease states, which is we're off, we have a disease, right? We have chronic insomnia, so we're not getting proper sleep. So our whole metabolism is under an increased demand of this insomnia as a problem, as a disease state, or chronic pain and inflammation. So the metabolic demands are increased. Neurotransmitters, which are the signaling mechanisms of the body throughout the nervous system, right? They are essentially required to be produced to maintain their optimization, and they are depleted, relatively depleted to what is required by this increased metabolic demand of the disease state. So the body's not optimized. And we can't just eat enough protein or eat enough of these amino acids to optimize the neurotransmitters. So we've proven scientifically that with this patented messenger amino acid technology and providing amino acid precursors and certain botanicals in these formulations, that we could produce neurotransmitters that are depleted and address these depletions by repleting the neurotransmitters to optimize their levels and let the body come back into balance, so that, again, we could promote natural healing. So that was a mouthful, but we're promoting natural healing by producing neurotransmitters which are depleted in the disease state. And we're doing that with a patented amino acid technology. And we have extensive human clinical trials, like studied against the biggest pharmaceuticals. For chronic pain inflammation, our lead product, Theramine, has been studied against ibuprofen and naproxen, which are the most widely used, probably non-steroidal anti-inflammatories in the world, right? And we show decrease of inflammatory markers, decrease of pain in human published studies, some double-blind clinical published studies. And these were prescription only products that were being reimbursed by $400 by insurance. I got acquainted with them and they were prescription only. And I was taking many of my patients and getting them down or off their anti-inflammatories and their sleep medications, or reducing the doses when I would combine them. Sometimes I would get them 50 or 75% down. One of our big studies shows you can reduce naproxen 70% when combining it with Theramine in a study on back pain patients, and get the same effect. But when you reduce the pharmaceutical, you greatly decrease the side effect profile, like 98%, because most side effects are dose related, other than allergic ones generally. So the idea is, if you could bring in a natural substance that's amino acid and botanical and purely safe, and reduce or get off your pharmaceuticals, reduce the dosages, how could you not use that for pain and for sleep? Many people are on, whether it's over the counter or prescription pharmaceuticals for these problems, and they have many side effects. Non-steroidal anti-inflammatories are super toxic. The more data that was seen on them, they could even promote chronic pain and inflammation, which is remarkable. But we know they have very high incidence of gastrointestinal problems. You could get bleeding ulcers, cardiac toxicity, renal toxicity, on and on.
What about liver?
Yeah, I mean, Tylenol, which isn't a non-steroidal, but it's one of, probably the acetaminophen is probably the most common used pain medicine on earth, I would think. Yeah, that has liver toxicity in a number of patients, So again, and I'm not saying there isn't a place for these things for acute use and taking some if you have a headache, but many people are on them chronically. And we could address things like chronic arthritis with these natural solutions that can get you off the anti-inflammatories, as some people even offer, way down on their opioids, with promoting natural healing of the body by using targeted nutrition. So we have, Centra PM for sleep was studied against trazodone, one of the most widely prescribed sleep medicines in the world. But again, many people get confusion, daytime fatigue, different drug interactions with many of these pharmaceuticals. So I want to offer these natural solutions, and we brought the price for what used to be reimbursed $400 a bottle from insurance companies now down to, well under $50 for your listeners with the discounts that we're offering.
Nice. So 2 of my kids are allergic, like their eyes swell up if they try to do like Advil or Aleve. I think that's the other one that they've tried. I don't remember the names because I don't take any of that stuff. So but that would be really helpful. And a lot of our listeners are always about the weight and like the weight loss. And I know you have something for that. Can you talk a little bit
Yes.
about that as well?
Yeah, it's incredible. We have Aptrim, which is, again, an appetite suppressant, all natural. Now, there's many new drugs for weight loss, but, many of them result in hypertension and, fast heartbeats and some cardiac problems. And, they could have lots of side effects. They have to be monitored very, very regularly for blood pressure and cardiac. And these medical foods that we have an appetite suppressant called Aptrim and Aptrim D, which is natural. It decreases craving, it improves moods, but again, it does that by working on neurotransmitters, and it's all natural, no drug interactions, no side effects. So all of our medications are essential. When I say medications, they're encapsulated medical foods. Like, many people think of supplements and pharma. Those are two categories everybody knows: pharmaceuticals and supplements. And these are in between that, in that they're natural, like many supplements, but they're FDA regulated. We have big science proving that you're meeting a nutrient deficiency in the disease claim. The FDA also requires that we have CGMP manufacturing, which is certified good manufacturing practices. So again, that means you know what you're getting based on the ingredients. Many, many supplements. And there was an article many years ago in Time magazine. They pulled 100 brands off and found some crazy amount, 70% didn't have what was represented on the label, and there were other things in them, but they're not regulated for their manufacturing. We have, per the FDA, GMP, CGMP manufacturing grade, all GRAS ingredients generally recognized as safe, as I told you, scientifically proven, human clinical data. Over 40 million doses taken over 10 years without any significant adverse side effects, helping many people. And now no longer prescription only. So I'm bringing them out. They still require physician supervision. So when you have a disease, I'd love you to have your physician talk to me, in the sense that, talk to him about how he could wean your other medications. But it's really quite simple. You start taking this, and you slowly, as it's helping you, you slowly start to decrease that. But if you're decreasing prescription medicines, with these, the FDA, we have physician supervision on our labels, and you should be talking to your physician and having them supervise when you're using something new to manage the disease, even though it's natural and safe.
What if you don't have a disease?
Well, again, it's interesting when you think obesity is considered a disease. Half our population meets the criteria for obesity based on the statistics, right? And it's classified as a disease, right? So, if you're 25 pounds overweight from what your optimal weight, you may not feel like you have a disease, but technically it's a disease. A sleep disorder, a large percent of the population have sleep disorders. You could call it a symptom, but again, there's a category for it. So it's called the disease. Chronic pain and inflammation, it's a disease. So I think that's a little bit of semantics, but I say that because, unlike supplements, we are nutritionally managing this disease state. It's your symptom, right? But we can make a claim for the dietary management of chronic pain and inflammation. And that's what our studies show, just like ibuprofen is to treat inflammation.
So I have a question. So for instance, just for me, right? I don't have any disease. I'm 57. And my whole thing is about prevention, so and if inflammation is the root of all disease, wouldn't it make sense that if we keep inflammation down by having some sort of a preventative maintenance type dose, then perhaps that could help us avoid acquiring any disease? Does that make sense?
No, that's true. But relative to these, right? if you have pain, you likely have inflammation. It's very common. They go hand in hand. If you have no symptoms at all, I would say to prevent inflammation, do all the things we spoke about with an optimal lifestyle, which you probably do. Because again, what we're doing here is if you have some chronic pain, and have some inflammation, we know you're somewhat depleted in these neurotransmitters that we're actively promoting the production of by providing these amino acid precursors and botanicals with this technology to optimize your levels and bring them back to neutral. You hopefully are thriving and just want to keep doing your lifestyle management tools and having a great diet and exercising and a good mindset.
Mm-hmm. So if I wanted to try something, because, as an athlete, I always have a little bit of pain here and there and joint issues. I love yin yoga, by the way. Yin yoga is just like my favorite thing for joint health. But is there like the tretpidone or the theramine? Which one of those would you say would be best for, like an athlete?
Well, I mean, we have a number of athletes who have, and I've had it when I had my chronic elbow tendonitis or my shoulder was acting up. I went with theramine just because it was our most widely studied one with published studies against ibuprofen and naproxen. Tretpidone, many people who have osteoarthritis, chronic osteoarthritis, take it. And we have people on these for 5 years doing well, and some are able to get off, but many it's safe to take forever. We've had people who combine them, both tretpidone and theramine, but I'd say I generally would start with theramine. And again, it's usually more for chronic. It doesn't work like for most people, like an Advil, where you take it and it works in the brain on the pain. It's working on bringing the neurotransmitter level up because you have some chronic depletion of it with the disease state. So, but, and again, the appetite suppressant and mood enhancement effects are great. We also have products. We have Centra AM, which is for fatigue and cognitive decline. But our chief medical officer, he was a Harvard-trained MD, he has a concierge practice in town, and he takes Centra AM instead of coffee in the morning, just for alertness. So its indication is for fatigue and cognitive decline. But, and a lot of seniors who have that, certainly there's lots of medicines you could take, but many of them really have terrible effects on mental status. And many of the medicines on fatigue and amphetamine type medicines, they're bad for your brain. And again, these are all natural. So Centra AM for fatigue and cognitive decline. And then for sleep, we have both Gabadone and Centra PM. And Centra PM, which was studied against Trazodone, tends to work more for people with chronic sleep problems who have a bit of a depressed mood. So it could be sleep and depression. And Centra AM, Gabadone is for more with people with some anxiety and sleep problems. So a money active ride, because that we see people with anxiety do well with Gabadone. So again, Gabadone, Centra PM for the sleep. We also have one for neuropathy, which is a really difficult problem. It's called Procura. Many of the prescription meds for neuropathy have a lot of challenging side effects. Things like gabapentin, Neurontin, they're just, people get confused, daytime fatigue. So again, these have essentially no side effects. Some people get a little nausea or dry mouth, which tends to go away.
Oh, after they just get used to it?
Yeah, but I encourage anyone taking prescription meds for any symptom, or even if you have any of these symptoms, to consider looking at a nutritional approach with encapsulated medical foods. I think this is going to be a giant wave that will take a lot of the pharmaceutical market with natural solutions for people, that they could start to cut down greatly on pharmaceutical needs by using targeted nutrition.
You better watch your back.
Well, again, and they'll often supplement their pharmaceuticals and use this as adjunctive care. I had many people on chronic anti-inflammatories and some even who were taking opioids that I was able to get on these sleep and pain medical foods, who would be able to reduce their dose, even when they were still taking them, take much less because of how we were regulating the neurotransmitters. And that was way healthier for them.
Yeah, that's good. So they probably what is it called? Titrate it down.
Titrate, exactly.
So that they can titrate that down as the supplement actually takes effect and then starts working in the body. How long does it take to see that improvement?
Well, again, and that's again why these require physician supervision, right? That's on our label. And we have people, say we're under the care of a physician when they're taking this. But I tell people to give these a month, even up to 6 weeks, because again, and some people respond way quicker. I have some people who take the sleep one and 1 and 2 nights later, they're starting to sleep well. So it depends where you're at with your neurotransmitters, which we don't know and measure, right? But I tell people give it a month because we're producing more neurotransmitters, right, in this disease state through our amino acids and technologies. And it may take time to get back to that normal level for the balance in the body at the cell level to start happening and the natural healing abilities to start kicking in further.
Nice. So do you guys see in the future for you to expand your line based on all of the different types of diseases that are out there?
Yes. Right now we have very big categories with chronic pain and inflammation, osteoarthritis, sleep, cognitive decline, fatigue, obesity. We have a few coming out for some really interesting diseases, one for bad constipation, which is going to be incredible. We have one for alcohol abuse that will help people really not have recurrences, because there's turns out one of the reasons the recidivism rate's so high in alcoholism and they go back to drinking is, again, have to do with nutrient deficiencies in the brain and neurotransmitters, et cetera. And so we have one that'll, optimize nutrition. So once someone is sober, the recurrence rate's going to be much, much less to go back. And we have some others in the pipeline. Stanford's our research partner and have a pretty impressive team in terms of the science behind us. One of my partners was the ex-CEO of GNC, and another partner is the head of Stanford's Health Innovation Lab, and my chief medical officer was the executive vice president of Herbalife at one point. He headed their medical division. He's a Harvard-trained MD, and so we have a great experienced team that we're really excited to educate doctors, educate health coaches. I was having discussions with integrative nutrition because I said, how could you not educate all your health coaches to bring this out and let them have something to offer their patients and give them a revenue model, which would be amazing, because we don't need prescriptions for this anymore. We were going down that path, but they've become a very difficult, complicated PE-owned company at this point. So as practical as private equity.
Oh, really? They sold out?
Yeah, I think if the original owner found the Rosenberg was still there, who put 30 years and created a great educational company, we'd probably be doing great things with them. But we were walking down a path, and somehow it didn't happen, and which is shocking to me because they're educating health coaches, and I'm like, how do you not have this in the curriculum if it's really should be changing the way people think of their health nutritionally? And I could give you an incredible revenue model. You're a health coach, offer these and you'll get this incredible discount for yourself, and then another one for your patients, and you could have a revenue model to do the great work you do. But anyway.
Joshua was lovely. I had tea with him in San Francisco about 11 years ago. And
Amazing.
he was just such a beautiful soul, and just could see inside of you, you know? He looked
Yes,
at me and he just said, healer, heal thyself. And I came home and I painted it in my kitchen, and it
I
was
love it.
there. It was there until just last year I decided to repaint my kitchen. But yeah, he's a cool guy. But it sounds like that, you know, he had to, maybe he retired and
I think he put in 30 plus years and maybe retired, but yeah, now it's owned by private equity. And I had discussions with the CEO, and then the head of business development was very excited about the initiative. CEO just, I think she is beholden to what the private equity owners want.
oh, of course, no
It's like a
doubt.
lot of things that happen, when business comes into play, even though I think this could be a great, great business opportunity. Business always has to work and be win-win. But, when people are driven initially, primarily, sometimes by a certain economic model and way of doing things, I'm about trying to spread good health and just figuring out how to make it work for all. So, love you to help with our spread the word on the medical foods as you're doing here today, and help a lot of people have natural solutions to help. So
Absolutely. I'm on the same team as you, my dear. And
yes,
I have a really hard time because like my own parents, or what you described earlier, as they just pop pills for symptoms, and my mom has Alzheimer's, or she hasn't been technically diagnosed with it, but she thinks my grandma is still alive, who's been gone for 15 years. And so I see that, and I tried to get her to do different things, and of course she wouldn't listen. And then I get a call because I'm her whatever power of attorney. I get a call, oh, she needs to go back to the doctor because he's not going to refill her blah blah blah. And I'm like, I don't even know what she's on it for. But they are big believers of everything their doctors say. And Tracy doesn't know what she's talking about. She's not a doctor. So
I
but
deal with I deal with that, and I was the doctor, and my parents. I was the child. No matter how old I got and what my credentials were, it's like because I didn't necessarily agree with their doctors in Florida and the endless medications being prescribed and not addressing all these lifestyle issues. It was
mhm.
easier. They were, as I said, of the generation of the magic pill is going to
Oh
solve
yeah.
the problem, versus eat right and think right and exercise especially. So, but we're a new generation, people like us who may be over 50 but feel 25 and are set on growing and continuing to optimize our health. And I plan on living another 100 years. So with what's going on in the longevity space, for sure.
Are you
So
familiar with med technology?
med in particular,
Oh yeah, we'll have to talk later.
yeah.
There's new technology. It's not even new, but it's going to be released very soon. And there's these med beds, and they're coming out, I'm hoping this year, to the general public.
Mhm.
So yeah,
Great. I'm glad. I'm always looking into things. I mean, I'm pretty deep in the longevity space. I advise in the psychedelic space. There's a lot. I'm in the mental health space. There's a lot of exciting stuff going on. But my real baby right now, number one, is these encapsulated medical foods, because they're just so important. And I had so much experience with them with my patients, and have seen hundreds of docs helping hundreds of thousands of people with them, or tens of thousands. And 15 years, 40 million doses, like just big human studies. Just don't see that many things like this. So I think it's critical, and I hope your listeners take advantage of the discount code you're getting. They could get information at medicalfoods.com. That's our website. All our science is there. And yeah, hopefully a lot of them could help, and their friends could be helped. And I'd
that's what I
love
was
them to
just
have
going to ask
their
you.
doctors should call me and let me. It's very simple education. It's like, hey, here's double blind studies. These are natural, safe, no side effects, no drug interactions. When I would lecture, because I was a UCLA professor and I was on the podium with these. And when I'm teaching doctors, I'm like, look, if you have human clinical trials and you know they're perfectly safe and you know they're FDA regulated for manufacturing, that's all you really need to know. Why wouldn't you try them if people have a certain symptom that you could address nutritionally? So that's sort of the extent of my education. And yeah, medicalfoods.com is our main website, which is very deep, and you'll be getting affiliate codes so they could actually purchase off them. But I think, let them have their physicians call me to help guide their medications if they want to wean them.
Awesome. I think that's really important, is to bring the doctors on so that they listen to that. And also, are you guys on social media? Is there anywhere else that we can point them to, or do you want them just to go to your website?
We're on lots of social media, and I think Jimmy sent you the links, but I think if they start with our website, all the social media links will be on our website. And, I'm on Instagram at Dr. Michael Sinel _MD. But again, LinkedIn, Instagram. I mean, my name is a bit unusual, Dr. Michael Sinel. So
I'll have links in the show notes page as well.
Yes.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Dr. Mike. It has been an absolute pleasure. I wish I lived closer to you. I'd come to one of your meditation get-togethers.
I thought you were in the South Bay. Aren't you? Where are you living?
South Bay, meaning like I live near San Jose. I live 30 minutes south of San Jose off the 101 on a little farm.
Beautiful. Sounds great. Well, if you ever make it to LA, reach out, but feel free to reach out anytime. And
awesome.
Water Wednesdays. Good luck.
Water Wednesdays. I'm starting this week or next week, so you'll see.
Next week. Love it.
All right. Well,
so
thank you so much. It was lovely having you. We'll talk. Okay, that was awesome. I wish I lived closer. I would go hang out and go do yoga with him. So anyways, I hope you enjoyed the show. Please share it with a friend if you think that they could benefit from the medical foods. I think it's a really good solution to get off of the pharmaceuticals that have so many different side effects and find a more natural approach. So thank you for listening. Make it a great day. This podcast contains the opinion and thoughts of its host and guests. It is intended to provide helpful and informative material on the subjects covered. All statements made on the podcast have not been evaluated by the FDA and are not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent disease. If the listener requires professional assistance or advice, please contact your personal medical doctor. Both host and guest specifically disclaim any responsibility for any liability, loss, or risk, personal or otherwise, which is incurred as a consequence directly or indirectly of the use and application of any of the contents of these episodes. Like I said, this is my opinion and I could be wrong.